The Zephyrian fleet hung in Earth's orbit like metallic vultures, their bioluminescent hulls pulsing with an ominous blue glow. Admiral Kexathara observed the small blue world through the bridge's crystalline viewport, her forearms crossed in what her species considered a gesture of casual dominance. Such a primitive civilization, she mused to her tactical officer. Their largest ships barely breach their own atmosphere. This will be over within a solar cycle. The Zephyrians had conquered 47 worlds in the past century. Each species had followed the same predictable pattern: initial resistance, gradual realization of their technological inferiority, and inevitable surrender. The mathematical models were flawless. Earth would be no different. On the surface below, Colonel Alexander Kane stood in the war room of NORAD, his weathered hands gripping the metal table as he studied the holographic displays. At 35, he'd seen combat on 3 continents, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The alien transmission had been clear: surrender unconditionally or face total annihilation. "Sir," came a voice from across the room. Dr. Nora Chen, the lead xenobiologist, approached with a tablet clutched against her chest. Despite being only 28, she'd already revolutionized humanity's understanding of potential extraterrestrial life. Now that theoretical knowledge faced its ultimate test. "What's our assessment, Doctor?" Alexander asked, his steel-gray eyes never leaving the tactical display. Nora pushed her glasses up her nose, a nervous habit she'd never quite broken. "Based on their ship configurations and the energy signatures we're detecting, they're approximately 2 centuries ahead of us technologically. But, Colonel..." She paused, her dark eyes meeting his. "There's something in their communication patterns that suggests they're following a standard protocol. They expect us to behave like their previous conquests." Alexander's jaw tightened. "Meaning?" "Meaning they've never encountered a species quite like us. The first wave of Zephyrian shock troops descended 12 hours later. They struck major population centers simultaneously, their plasma weapons carving through conventional military hardware like heated knives through butter. But instead of the expected panic and immediate surrender, something unprecedented happened. Humanity fought back, not with advanced technology or superior firepower, but with something the Zephyrians had never encountered in their previous conquests: absolute, stubborn, suicidal defiance. In New York, firefighters turned their hoses on alien equipment, discovering that the Zephyrian energy shields were vulnerable to rapid temperature changes. In Tokyo, civilians armed with nothing but kitchen knives and homemade explosives began guerrilla warfare in the subway tunnels. In London, children threw rocks at alien soldiers while their parents coordinated resistance through social media networks the invaders couldn't decode. Admiral Kexathara watched the reports with growing confusion. Her tactical displays showed successful occupation of target zones, but the resistance wasn't diminishing. It was intensifying. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. They're laughing at us." Alexander's voice crackled through the intercepted transmission. "You want to know the difference between humans and your previous conquests? We've been fighting each other for 10,000 years. We've perfected warfare against impossible odds. You think you're the first army to tell us we can't win?" In the Montana mountains, Nora worked frantically in an underground laboratory, analyzing captured alien technology. Her team had discovered something crucial. The Zephyrian weapons systems were optimized for fighting organized military forces, not the chaotic, unpredictable resistance humanity was mounting. "They're like a perfectly designed key," she explained to Alexander over their encrypted channel. "But we're not the lock they were made for." The war's turning point came in the Australian outback. A group of Aboriginal elders drawing on 40,000 years of survival knowledge led Zephyrian forces into the desert during a heat wave. The aliens' biosuits designed for their homeworld's cooler climate began failing. When human forces found them 3 days later, the invaders were delirious from dehydration. For the first time in Zephyrian military history, an entire battalion surrendered to the species they were meant to conquer. Admiral Kexathara stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. Her forces weren't just losing ground, they were being systematically outmaneuvered by a species that shouldn't have posed any significant threat. "How?" she whispered to her tactical display. "Their weapons are inferior. Their technology is primitive. How are they winning?" The answer came from an unexpected source. A human child, no more than 10 years old, had been captured during a raid in Berlin. Instead of showing fear, she looked directly at her Zephyrian captors and asked, "Is this the best you've got?" That night, every human on Earth received the same message, broadcast simultaneously across every device, every frequency, every medium their species could access. Alexander's voice steady and unwavering. "People of Earth, the aliens came here expecting us to surrender. They studied our military capabilities, our technology, our governments, but they never studied our hearts. They never understood that humans don't surrender, we adapt. We overcome, we endure." Nora stood beside him in the broadcast center, her earlier nervousness replaced by fierce determination. "We've learned their language, reverse-engineered their technology, and turned their own weapons against them. But more importantly, we've shown them something they've never seen before, a species that gets stronger when pushed to the brink." The Zephyrian withdrawal began 3 weeks later. As their ships retreated beyond the solar system, Admiral Kexthera transmitted a final message to Earth. "We have added humanity to the galactic register of unassailable species. Your world will be marked as a protected zone. We miscalculated." Alexander and Nora stood together on the roof of the rebuilt Pentagon, watching the alien ships disappear into the stars. The morning sun painted the sky in brilliant oranges and golds, a reminder that Earth would see another day. "Think they'll be back?" Nora asked. Alexander smiled grimly. "Let them try. Now we know something they don't." "What's that?" "Humans don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure nobody ever forgets what happens when you underestimate us." Above them, the first human interstellar ship began construction, humanity ready to take their defiance to the stars.